We have to become the person we are meant to be first, to live the life we are destined to live. We all encounter challenges, obstacles, and even dark times on that journey, but we are not alone. This podcast will give all seekers hope and understanding that others have walked that path before us. My guests will share how they overcame the challenges and what helped them turn the corner. Listening to their inspiring stories, get motivated and take action to transform into that amazing person that you really are. Your voice needs to be heard and your message must be shared. My name is Sabine Quenberg and I am your host. I'm glad that you're here to listen to my podcast where you can discover how to become the more incredible version of yourself. Are you ready? Let's get on this journey together. Now, let's dive into our guest interview. I'm so excited to have Rebecca Burd as my guest today because she not only has a great cause that she supports, and I think it's important to talk about, but she also overcame a health challenge during that whole time that she built her business that is very inspirational and inspiring for us to not give up, but rather continuously working towards your goal, your mission, your passion. Rebecca and I recently met in person in Nashville, Tennessee, where we both were at our book signing for our #1 Amazon bestseller, The Musical Imprint. First of all, I want to ask you, how are you today, Rebecca?
I am doing so well. I actually was just kind of thinking about that question and thinking about how many Christmases right at this time of the year I could never have said that. And so I just sit with so much gratitude for feeling good and being able to be excited and enjoy the holiday with the family.
Oh, that is fantastic. And when you shared your story with me, I thought I have to get Rebecca onto my podcast because it's all about overcoming those adversity that we have faced in life. But let me share with our listeners first what you do, who you are. And I want to read your bio here real quick because you have been an advocate for or against bullying for some time that led you to write a musical, become a producer, a director, and through all that time. So you were also facing a health challenge, which we're going to talk about a little bit. But let me ask you, Rebecca, what made you decide to become an advocate against bullying and then create the musical that you now have?
Well, something that I know we both have in common is a love for artists. And I grew up as an artist. I just loved and adored performing artists. They were my passion, more specifically working with young people, young adults, and helping to cultivate their passion and their art. And more importantly than even that, learning how to use that gift that they had for a purpose. And over time, we had started working almost fresh out of high school, working with performing artists and young adults. And we would do trainings with them and we would go out and present new works throughout summer tours and travels like that. And we were just seeing such significant impact, both in the artists' lives as well as those that they would serve. And one particular day, we got the privilege of being able to join a meeting that was taking place in our area. At the time, we lived in New York. And it was a meeting of people that were working in the arena of young people and trying to figure out how we could impact change and some of the issues that young people were dealing with. And so this particular morning, the host decided to share with us a clip by a gentleman named Frank Peretti. And it was an audio clip of a book that he had just written called The Wounded Spirit. And to give you some context, this was about 2 years following Columbine. So the conversation of bullying had really just begun in our culture as being something that we were talking about on a regular basis. I would say before that, bullying was seen, at least in my years of growing up, maybe you would say the same, as something that they sort of saw as a rite of passage, something that kids just had to go through. And often the talk around bullying sounded something like, just be stronger. Like, you can get through it. You know, everyone has to go through it. I went through it. You're going to get through it. And the talk was always sort of in that context. And so following Columbine, I think what it did is wake us up as a nation to see that this was not as simple as that. We couldn't just tell kids to get over it, because Columbine became the repercussions of that kind of language and speaking to kids in that way. And so in this book, as he began to share the story of his life, he talked about how he was born with these disfigurements, a hump on his back, an oversized tongue, and how all through elementary school he was horrifically bullied because of it. And he started to talk about how that affected him, his own mental health, how that looked for him going into his teens and into his young adults and even into his career later on in life. And he used words that weren't being said around bullying at the time, which were words like, let's call this what it is. It's abuse. And it's abuse that we are allowing as adults to continue to be cultivated amongst young children that are trying so desperately to find themselves, and unfortunately are having their lives sort of intercepted by bullying right in those formative years, right in those times where more than anything, they need to be told all the incredible things about who they are. But instead, their mental health is being destroyed by these words because kids are not being taught how to interact with each other, how to properly speak to each other, and the power behind their words. And so after we finished that audio clip, my husband and I looked at each other. I mean, we had tears streaming down our face. I don't think there was a single leader in that room who wasn't feeling the same. There was over 30 of us. And we walked toward the door and we met with the man who had led the meeting. And we said, we just can't walk out. Like, we have got to do something about this. And he looked back at us and he said, well, you are the artist. Go do something about it. And literally those words changed our life. And that was how we kind of set out on a path to fight bullying in schools and to bring awareness to this issue for kids as artists.
Isn't it interesting that sometimes a very simple sentence can be that little kick that we need to move forward, like
Yes.
what this gentleman said to you? One thing that is also phenomenal is your story, because you were also faced with some horrific health challenge that went along while you are developing that play and went to school. So Rebecca, share with us what that was all about, the health challenge that you faced.
Well, my journey really began when I was just 15 years old. So it was a very young stage of life when I was in that same formative time of my life. And I had gotten very sick with a food poisoning, which for most people is something that they can very quickly get over. But mine just happened to be extremely severe and left me hospitalized. And for the next 8 months following, I just couldn't regain my weight. I couldn't regain my strength. And thus began a series of health challenges that we searched for almost 17 years for a diagnosis. And during that time, I got married. I had my 3 babies. We got knee deep into this journey of developing the musical and working with artists. We started touring with the musical nationally into schools across the country. And all in that time, I saw symptoms go from being primarily a weakening of my body, pain within my joints, pain within my body, to becoming extremely neurological, where I was actually losing my legs. I was becoming mute, paralyzed, very, very, very severe symptoms. And it was a gradualness. And I would find windows in between that time of health. And I fought very, very hard. I found a lot of natural things that really worked in my favor because the doctors could not really help or give me diagnosis. And so I was very thankful for many, many years in between there where I was able to sort of fight back and rally and find my way through to be able to do the work that we were doing. But there was many times I was doing it from a bed, from a wheelchair. There was actually where we worked in our theater, in our dance studios and up in our theater, they actually would lay out beds for me in all our different locations, where I would work with my artists. And I often created choreography from laying flat on my back. I often had to work with my artists from a couch or from a bed. And my artists were so kind and loving to me. And it never occurred to me, I have to say, it never occurred to me in the midst of all that to not do this work, because we were seeing exactly what you said. We were seeing the power of story. We were seeing the power of the arts come alive in the lives of students. And when you have a student look at you and say, hey, this was the weekend I was going to take my life. Had you not come to my school, had I not seen this musical, how do you allow these physical symptoms and what I was feeling to stop this work from going forward? And so we pursued with everything we had. I made it happen as best as I could in each circumstances of every day. I can't say that every day wasn't an unbelievable challenge to get up, to function, to be a good mom, be a good wife, and continue this work. But it wasn't until after my third baby that things got very serious. And I became wheelchair bound again following my third. And this time I just couldn't recover. I was not bouncing back. We were not able to get me pretty much out of bed. My husband would carry me to and from the bathroom. It was very severe. And we started to once again try to go down the road of doctors and diagnoses. At this point, we thought maybe MS or something like that. And the doctor finally gave me a diagnosis of late stage neurological Lyme disease. And then quickly told me there was really nothing he could do to help, and that this is what the illness had done to me. And I said, listen, I am a 28-year-old mother of three, or I think maybe I was 31 at the time, 31-year-old mother of three. I'm wheelchair bound. I said, what are you trying to say to me? He said, I'm trying to tell you that this illness has left you here, and this is maybe where you'll stay. And so at 31 years old with three children, to hear that from a doctor, for me, it wasn't good enough. For me, I thought there's too much life to be lived. There's too much. I have to fight. And so thus began a 12-year journey of looking for something that would really turn and reverse this illness and get me and bring me back to life.
What was your first initial thought when you heard his words?
Probably this very strong and defiant nature in me thought, well, you haven't met me.
I like that. You haven't met me. Yes.
That's I felt like that's just not good enough. It's not good enough because my kids are depending on me, because my husband's depending on me, because I have this fire in my belly for this work that I know we're meant to do with kids. And I know that although I would have been willing to do all of those things from that wheelchair, I knew that there was more. I knew that there could be better. And I wasn't willing to take somebody else's words, which ultimately were words of death spoken over me and spoken over my life, to be my ultimate outcome.
I don't want to take somebody else's words. That brings us back to the beginning, what you said, that the words are so powerful. And to bring this in context with the bullying, the words that's being spoken to you and about us have consequences.
Yes.
And vice versa. They can be good or bad. In your case, what you mentioned earlier, when you hear those words from those students who said, I was about to take my life this weekend, but you came and I saw this musical and it changed my mind. How powerful positive statements and words can be as well. So I just wanted to point this out to our listeners, that words that we hear and that we speak are tremendously powerful and can make a huge difference. So with that said, you then made a decision. No, you haven't met me. But most importantly, what you also said was, hey, I have children, I have my husband, and I have this cause. That was another point and another step up for you to just push through and find a solution. Am I right?
Yes, I think we all need something, right? We all need that fire in our belly, that thing that we see out in front of us, whether it's a passion or a dream or a call that you feel is on mission for your life, whatever that might be, to keep that out in front of you, to not look and live in the present circumstance. If it's so difficult, if it's so hard to imagine, how could I overcome this? What we can do is look ahead and look forward and let that fire that lives within us be that thing that cultivates just the next step. And I learned to do that, to just take the next step. And I love what you say about words, because if we could ultimately, I believe that more than I would say anti-bullying, the mission that I think I'm called to in my life is teaching people the power of speaking life. And the power of speaking life ultimately is the antidote for bullying. Because if kids understood the power of their words to breathe life in others, the power of their words to turn a person around from a direction that they're going in to a whole new way, that their words are that powerful, that this is not about what you can do necessarily just to change. We think, oh, I want to change the world. I want to change everything that's around me. How about let's just change our little world? Let's influence the people that are in our direct circle. Let's learn how to speak life into them, over them, around them, about ourselves to them, so that we change the conversation. Because when you begin to speak words of life, not just to others and to the world that surrounds you, but over yourself, watch your world change. Because it is the power of what we say and the power of what we think about ourselves that ultimately becomes our destiny.
Let's go back to that story, because you didn't take those negative words and you decided to do something about it and use the power of your mind first to find a solution. So take us on the journey, how you basically started that journey and not took the doctor's words for granted, but rather made a decision to heal yourself.
I can say I probably tried anything between 20 and 40, maybe more, different things to do. And many of them were rigorous. It involved, I lived on Long Island at the time, and involved 2-hour trips into the city and being in IV rooms with other patients for hours and hours at a time, and trying to figure out how to work and do all of that in the midst of it. And it was a lot of discipline. I think that's the other piece of the puzzle that I would say. We ultimately all want the glory moment. We want the healing. We want the big, moment of our life to happen. And we want to skip to that moment. We want that to be now. But from the time I started to search after my diagnosis to the time that I was walking and healthy and vibrant was almost a 12 to 15 year journey. And that was after a 17-year journey of searching for my diagnosis. So all in all, it was almost 3 decades. What's waiting for you on the other side is worth every moment of that. And the world I am living in now, and the things that I get to do, and I am walking, and I am healthy, and I'm involved in my children's lives, and I am able to be a good wife. I'm able to provide for my family and do the work I'm so passionate about. There is not a hardship that I have been through in the last 30 years that is not worth the moments that I'm able to live in right now. And I'll also say that 30-year journey was worth every moment in itself. Because what I learned, what I experienced, what I walked through, even in the hardest moments, were just as valuable as what I'm experiencing now, if not more valuable than what I'm experiencing now in the good moments.
Yeah, what you said is so powerful. No matter what you have to overcome in life, if it's a health challenge or any kind of adversity or challenge that we have to go through to become our next greater self, right? And to become that person to live the life that we are destined to live. I truly believe in it. And your story is so empowering, because what you said is, it is not easy to go through. And a lot of people are giving up way too early, either being, healed, or either finding that passion or building that business.
Mhm.
And I know it for myself, building a business, it is not easy at the beginning. And there are a lot of things that you have to overcome. And you had to overcome another obstacle in your business when the pandemic hit in 2020. You had a musical, right? Now we cannot go live into schools anymore. And how often do people give up? Say, okay, this is it. I cannot do nothing about it. But not you, because you are not the type of person who gives up. So tell us, in your words, what you did and how that situation, if we always look for the silver lining and a greater outcome, made a huge change in how you present the musical now.
Yes. I think oftentimes if we can just simply look at difficulty as not just difficulty, but potentially opportunity, we have a new world that can open up to us. And that's exactly what happened for us. For years, we had been dreaming and thinking of how could we scale this? How could we get to a place where any school, anywhere in the world that needed this program could have it on any given day? And we had thought about film, we'd thought about video, we had touched on that. But at the time, the idea of bringing a musical to film or putting it on video was just not something that culturally was happening often, and really not something that kids necessarily were used to seeing. Well, fast forward to 2020, when we're all kind of stuck in our houses, and not only were we facing this problem, but even the Broadway community was facing this problem. And so they came up with the concept of bringing Hamilton to film. And they released it through Disney Plus. They originally were going to release it into the main theaters, but that wasn't even an option at the time. So Disney Plus releases it. And all of a sudden, the exact genre and age group of student that our program addresses, for middle schoolers through high schoolers, were watching Hamilton on Disney Plus, and they were responding, and they were loving how they were seeing theater come to life on film. And so we saw that, and there was a series of a few more things that happened. And I finally looked at my husband one day and I said, I think there's something to this. I said, I think for years we thought it would lose its power if we put it on a film. But I think that just what we're seeing in our society right now is proving that to be wrong. And then became the other hurdle of, okay, well, Hamilton on Disney Plus was, I'm sure, a big ticket item to make something like that happen and to do it on that level of excellence. And here we are, this tiny little nonprofit. How in the world are we going to produce it on such a level of excellence that kids are going to be able to respond and get out of the film what we really needed them to get out of the story? And so that enter Justin and Taryn Simmons. Justin is the safety for the Denver Broncos. He's the top safety in the NFL, and a man whose passion is for at-risk kids. And him and his wife, some of the most beautiful humans I've ever met in my life. They started the Justin Simmons Foundation, and their job inside that foundation is to be able to bring to life different projects and different things that will help kids who are dealing with at-risk situations. And in Justin's own words, he said, what kids are more at risk than kids who are being bullied? And so when he saw what we did and we said, hey, what about coming behind us and helping us get this to film? He said, we are all in. And the Justin Simmons Foundation got behind us. They funded the making of the film. So this was done on a Broadway level. This was done with, the crazy LED walls, the full-blown theater, the lights, the set, like all the things. Something that I could never have dreamed the musical could have looked like. The day we watched it being filmed, I sat back in that seat and saw this work that we had created 20 years earlier come to life in the way that I had only imagined it, with incredible actors, professionals who brought these characters to life and told these stories in a way in which kids would connect and have a Me Too moment, which is what we wanted them to have through the film. And so that allowed us to bring it to film. Well, now we launched into schools just this last fall, and the film in just 3 short months has impacted 17,300 students across the nation. Rewind back to the days that we used to tour. We couldn't see that many students in that short a period of time. It was impossible live. And this is just the beginning. Like you said, when you start any new business or any new offering or any new product to the market, it's going to take time. So we're with you in that journey. If you are brand new to something, you've created a new work or new something you're bringing to the world, be patient. We are on that journey with you. It takes time to let the world know that your beautiful work is available to them. But the more and more the word is getting out there, and we would love for you to share this work with your school, because we believe there is not a school that doesn't need it. And stay tuned. I hope you'll follow us on social media and stay connected to what we're doing, because in 2023, we have some new offerings of the film coming to the table that will allow it to be available in inside an environment in which they'll be like for the schools, there are lesson plans attached. There's 5 lesson plans that they'll go through with teachers and follow up to the musical. But we also want to make it available to community programs like the Boys and Girls Club, Girl Scouts, camps, those types of scenarios that work inside a child's life. We also want to make it available to families so that you can have it in your own home, watch the film with your kids, sit and have those important conversations. We want to make it available in our churches. Any area in which a student's life is influenced, we want to be able to make this program available to them. So stay tuned, because those new offerings are coming, and we can't wait for it to get to your area and to your school and to your kids, because we know how important this message of life is for their own lives, especially right now in the mental health crisis that our teens are facing.
And I can only say, Rebecca, you have the vision that this will happen, so it will happen. Yes. I affirm that.
100%. In our mind, we have to see it, we have to know it, we have to believe it, and then we pursue that truth, because I truly believe there's no reason it can't happen, because these students need it. And when we're on a mission to make a change in the world, to do something that truly we're impassioned with, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so I encourage the rest of you today with that as well. Whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're pursuing, whatever you have to overcome to see that happen, don't let go. Don't let go of that passion. Do the hard work. Do it. Get up every day and just do it again and do it again and do it again. And I promise you that that end result will be worth every single step of the journey.
Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing your story. And thank you so much for being the visionary behind this project called Speak Life and Bullying. And I wish you and your organization all the best. I know it is so needed, and I know it will go out, because when we do something for the greater good, the universe will supply all the necessary resources, as you just shared with us. So once again, best of luck, and I'll make sure that your contact information will be in the show notes so people can contact you.
Thank you so much, Sabine. I'm so, so grateful to be here with you today and to be with your listeners. And I'm so passionate about what you're passionate about and about overcoming. And I know for each of your listeners, whatever it is today, there is so much greatness coming. Stay the course, because you will overcome, and there are great things in store for you.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was my interview. And if you enjoyed it, give us a 5-star review, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. Thanks for listening. Until I see you again, always remember, serve from the heart, follow your passion, and live the life you imagine.